So for more insight, it's a pleasure to welcome Behnam Ben Taleblu, Senior Fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Behnam, thank you so much for joining us. Much on the go all at once. We heard there from Hezbollah, but Iran itself has been vowing revenge for the humiliating elimination of Ismail Haniyeh more than 3 weeks ago now. Many had thought it would coordinate its response with Hezbollah, potentially others as well. Israel's preemptive strike in southern Lebanon limiting the response from the Iranian terror group. Your thoughts on the strategy out of Tehran itself?
Pleasure to be with you again. It is still very much out of Tehran a war of words, just as it is a war of words out of Secretary General of Lebanese Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah's mouth. In this case, there's several strategies that the Islamic Republic could be pursuing here. One, of course, is threatening to rattle that ballistic missile and drone saber to get some kind of additional ceasefire deal via the Americans imposed on Israel. That seems much less likely now, given that within the past 24 to 36 hours, Hamas has been the stumbling block there. Second, of course, is that they could be looking to have the proxies, meaning the Islamic Republic could be looking to have the proxies go first or go in waves. This was alluded to both in Axis of Resistance media and particularly in comments made by, again, Hassan Nasrallah of Hezbollah when he said that the first round had been concluded. It's entirely possible that the Islamic Republic could shift to a different proxy force to have a different kind of cycle of violence before it itself gets involved, or perhaps, again, keep threatening that wider war and then simply not have to deliver. But lest we forget, the Islamic Republic continues to downplay the success of the Israeli military strike, which preempted that first round.
And talking about the messaging, the words that are being used out of Tehran, out of Lebanon as well, looking behind the brazen rhetoric, is Hezbollah likely deterred by Sunday's preemptive strike? Reports also suggesting the next attack on Israel could come from another country, the staggered attacks that you alluded to. Your sense?
Yeah, I do believe that the punishment, if you will, or the revenge that the regime has promised and its axis of resistance has promised is likely to be phased much more over time here. Perhaps we should look to the south with the Houthis, or perhaps we should be looking further east of Israel to the Iran-backed Shia militias in Iraq and Syria. But no, I do not believe that Lebanese Hezbollah has been deterred. In a sense, they haven't been deterred since October 8th, when they were the first proxy of Iran to really build on this ring of fire strategy and incrementally escalate against Israel. If you look at Hezbollah's track record since then, they've literally met the academic definition of escalation by widening the war geographically with different targets, as well as with different weapons. So while they were clearly outgunned and outmatched by Israeli intelligence and by the Israeli military establishment in the recent preemptive attack, certainly things are not over.
You made mention of Syria. The IDF confirming on Monday morning it had intercepted a suspicious object after drone alert sirens sounded in the southern Golan Heights. Now, it seems that object was launched from Syria. That is unusual. Talk us through the threats on that front.
Interestingly, when you look at things that are launched by the Iran-backed axis in Syria, there is a bit of quiet coming from the Assad regime itself, which is still working on, you could say, its own reconquista within its own country and some of the deconfliction between its own military and the tensions with some of the Kurds to the north, as well as to the Turkish forces there in Syria as well. But that doesn't mean that the militias are still not looking to use Syria as a platform to launch these attacks. Yes, the ones from the Golan have been much more sporadic. Yes, you don't have anything like the war between the wars during a period of peacetime, meaning that response and return of fire between Israel and some of these militias. But it simply isn't punching at that same weight as it has been before.
And Behnam, we know that a lot of analysis is focusing on what transpired on Sunday. We were talking about the various narratives. The U.S., one of the officials telling Al Arabiya that the US had helped Israel track those Hezbollah missiles and drones on Sunday. We also know General Charles Brown, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, has been holding meetings in Israel. Briefly, give us a sense of your understanding of the US support amidst all these threats on several fronts at the same time right now across Israel.
You know, listen, while there are many critiques of the U.S. position, meaning the ability of America's adversaries, the ability of Israel's adversaries to play on America's desire for restraint and de-escalation over deterrence inside the Middle East, there's no doubt that the U.S. is performing its role as a security integrator in terms of the technology with the intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. This is really a tool that the U.S. is bringing to bear, not just in terms of the firepower that it's hoping deters the Islamic Republic. I think that's not monocausal, but in terms of the intelligence, they're the ones with the signals and satellite imagery that can be able to kind of rush data into the hands of partners and allies like the Israelis to be able to do something kinetic with that data. So again, I think this is, again, a big win for the technology and intelligence side of the equation. But as we've seen from October 7th and even in the pre-October 7th Middle East, you can't have, as some scholars have said, almost a century ago, technical solutions to political problems. And the problems that the U.S. and Israel faces are political problems in the Middle East, not technical problems.
Always appreciate your insights. Thank you so much, Behnam Ben Taleblu, the Senior Fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Thank you as always.
Thank you.